Hello and welcome to a God of War 5 video. As you can see by the title, this video will include information on God of War 5 and my thoughts on if Atreus could be featured as a playable character. God of War 5 or God of War Ragnarok is the sequel to the 2018 game by Santa Monica Studios, God of War. A teaser trailer released at the PS5 showcase a couple months back confirmed that God of War 5 will be coming next year. Rumors are going around that the Game of the Year Awards on December 10th will showcase gameplay from the new God of War. This seems highly plausible because besides the teaser trailer, there is still no concrete info out there. For now, we can speculate, and I would like to give my thoughts on an idea I think not many people have had. Let's get started. Ever since the first installment in the God of War series back in 2005, and until now, God of War has always been a single-player game, and solely focused on Kratos, a Greek warrior who goes on to kill pretty much everyone in Greek mythology. So the topic of discussion seems rather odd. So in order to answer the main question, I have to ask myself how I think it could work. I will avoid going into more detail than necessary, because by now I can assume you have played God of War, and I do not want to start rambling. So how would it work? I have 3 examples of how Atreus could be used as a playable character, starting with the GTA 5 system, where they switch from 3 characters at almost any given time. Maybe they could switch from Kratos to Atreus at any given point during combat. Another example could be like in a prologue with Assassin's Creed 3. You start off as Haytham Kenway, and then you transition into Connor at the end of the prologue. Maybe you can start off the game with Atreus' perspective on things at the beginning, and then switch to Kratos for the rest of the game. Lastly, I chose the Batman Arkham series, where during certain missions, when you need help in another area or another character.
Oh joy. Time to
This
play
last
the...
example sounds like the most reasonable, because I can't see switching back and forth from Atreus to Kratos, especially with how Cory Barlog directs with a heavy emphasis on storytelling and how cinematic this last game felt. But if at key moments in this next game, if we could switch to Atreus to see his point of view in the world. Sonny Sujuk is set to reprise his role, and he's now 15, so maybe now that Atreus could be a little older, they may give him another weapon. Maybe a sword or an axe like his dad. I think it could be very interesting to explore, but now let's snap back to reality and answer that question on my mind. Do I think Atreus will be a playable character in the new God of War? The answer is a resounding no. I had a couple points I was going to go more into detail about, but I think it would be easier if I just summarized. It's a no mainly due to production-wise. It took Santa Monica Studios 4 to 5 years to reinvent this last God of War for a 2018 release. And the sequel is set to be released next year, a mere 3 years later. Yes, I know you're thinking that, well, they already have the foundation. But you have to realize how far these guys go into detail to make everything look and feel as perfect as it can be. For example, in a video with Cory Barlog, I'll leave the link in the description, he stated that it took them 4.5 years to make the Leviathan axe work in-game.
So long to get online that everybody said, look, if you took 3.5 to 4 years to do the blades or the axe, you're never going to be able to do the blades in time. So we had a...
Imagine how long it would take Atreus to go from a buddy AI to a playable character. God of War has always been a story about Kratos, and yes, I know after the big reveal that Atreus is Loki, and that he is part giant, part god, and part mortal, I know the story will focus on Atreus a lot more. But I don't think this game will transition from father to son just yet. Because, if they wanted to, they could stretch this franchise to 3 or 4 games. Especially since the original franchise had about over 7 games focusing on Greek mythology. And I think we are only at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the Norse part. So yeah, I've officially answered that question. But I am still holding out to be a mission where you can play as Atreus. Maybe if Kratos gets incapacitated, or if he leaves for a while, and you have to play as Atreus. And besides that, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I rely on Atreus a lot during combat. And if you think about it, he pretty much does everything a support character is supposed to do, and then some. Read runes.
Read, boy.
Open bridges.
It worked.
We could...
And blow up stuff. Also forgetting that whole brat rebellious phase. He's a pretty cool character. As always, thank you for watching another God of War video. I intend to make more, but for now we can just sit and wait for newer content to come out. But I think it's safe to say that God of War 5 or God of War Ragnarok will most likely be a Game of the Year contender, with Cory Barlog leading a team full of passionate and hard-working people at Santa Monica Studios. Thank you for watching. See you later.
Let's take some calls from the request line. Caller number 1.